We are finally approaching the next arc in Dragon Ball Super following the events of the Dragon Ball Super superhero arc, where we find out that Broly is on Beerus Planet, training with Goku and Vegeta, potentially getting tips from the likes of Whis as well. Of course, we've known this from the initiation of the Dragon Ball Super superhero movie, and we have had to endure an entire year, over a year, of the adaptation into the manga. So the wait for Broly and Broly's training and the fruits of Broly's training have really been a long time coming. Now, concerning Broly's power surrounding the superhero movie release in terms of promotional material, there's heaps of articles suggesting that Broly is still the strongest, and there's a lot of debate concerning Broly's power. Some people believe that the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie Broly, in terms of his raw power reserves, was relative to Beerus. It's an easier argument to make in the movie continuity, gets a little bit harder in the manga continuity and relies on circumstances, largely concerning Broly not being able to turn Super Saiyan anymore, and just like Gohan, not retaining the rage boosts into his natural base power. However, some would argue that it is a current Broly as of the superhero arc that he is the one that is stronger than Goku and Vegeta, and since the Broly movie has continued getting stronger and stayed stronger than Goku and Vegeta, and some even argue that it's a hypothetical Broly that could turn into Super Saiyan full power or Legendary Super Saiyan, whichever one you want to call it. Though some would argue that actually, based on the showings in the superhero arc, it seems that Goku is the one that has closed the gap on Broly, not vice versa, as base to base they are seemingly equal, and you could even say that Broly is forced into a rage, whereas in the Broly movie event he wasn't forced into a rage in his base alone. Broly didn't really lose his temper properly till he achieved his Akari form in the Broly movie, and before that in his regular base form he was arguably stronger than the Super Saiyan golden haired variants. So whichever version this plays out to be in the future of the Dragon Ball Super manga, or whichever version you believe is to be the correct theory currently, remains to be seen. But ultimately there is a version of Broly that is considered the strongest. Even Toriyama for the superhero movie stated the only one Broly wouldn't be able to beat is a completed Cell Max, and obviously we know an incomplete Cell Max, not just in the movie but in the manga as well, was relative to Gohan Beast, and Gohan Beast was stronger than Orange Piccolo, who is relative to a superhero arc Goku and Vegeta. So Broly is immensely powerful. However, as we see in the manga, Broly, even whilst training on Beerus Planet, cannot keep his power under check. He doesn't seem to be in any sort of control over his power once he flips into a rage. Now we know the main source of Broly's power is rage, and the reason he was able to attain the heights of power that he did in the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, even competing against a blue level fusion, and even being compared to the level of Beerus by Goku himself, the trigger for him to attain that power was rage. Now, in terms of his power, in terms of Broly as a warrior, I am really talking about his raw power reserves here, his bank of power that he has at his disposal. And whilst in the superhero manga adaptation, Broly was stated amongst the likes of Jiren, Gas, Moro and Frieza, when Vegeta was talking about attaining a more efficient state, even though that was initially Jiren in the movie, it's really hard to pin that on Broly. The only theory that could fit is if Broly is able to do it instinctively, but the page before it and the page after it seem to contradict that. Of course, we see after Goku and Broly fighting and training base to base, Broly then loses it, his eyes start to glaze over, and Goku has to stop him and tell him that he was about to go nuts and that he needs to keep it under control. After Vegeta literally talks about how he needs to learn to wield his power and have control over his power, and so he is an efficient user of his power, and da-de-da, we suggest a training match between Broly, Vegeta and Goku. Vegeta doesn't want that. Goku tells Whis that he's gotten better, but if he snaps, it's bye-bye to the planet. Doesn't sound like a character that has control, does it? Whis even agrees, saying fair point, just you and Vegeta then. Then Whis states that Broly, you will sit back and observe a battle where neither party is permitted to rage out of control, which is basically Broly's MO. He's basically referencing Broly and telling Broly that he needs to watch this battle to ultimately not lose control of his power. So, like I said, maybe instinctively, but it's a hard sell. Now, of course, Broly, being an adaptation of the original Dragon Ball Z Broly, is a very different character in terms of his base form in comparison to the base form Broly from the Dragon Ball Z movie, as well as his Super Saiyan state. Now, this is how I see it. I wasn't a massive fan of the original Dragon Ball Z Broly, even though I could appreciate the fight scenes. I didn't like base Broly, particularly from the original Dragon Ball Z Broly. I do prefer Dragon Ball Super base Broly. However, I prefer the Super Saiyan Broly from the original Dragon Ball Z Broly movie over the current Dragon Ball Super Saiyan Broly. And guys, I would really like to know your thoughts on this down in the comment section. Which versions of Broly did you prefer? Base Broly in the original Z movie was basically a vegetable under control of the device Paragus put on him, whereas in the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, we got to see a lot more character from Broly, even though he had a device on and it looked like a way less technologically advanced device. After all, in the Dragon Ball Z Broly movie, they weren't on a desolate planet on the corner of the universe, whereas they had very little to work on in the Dragon Ball Super introduction of Planet Vampa. Now, in terms of Broly moving forward in the Dragon Ball Super story, obviously, like we already know and we already discussed, he's on Beerus' planet. He does now seem to be a friend of Goku and Vegeta's, but unlike the original Dragon Ball Z movie, he does also have other friends, Chilai and Limo. We also know that Frieza wants to allow Goku and Vegeta to train Broly so that he can eventually control him somehow. After all, at the end of the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, Frieza states that if Broly learned to tap into his immense potential, then no one could beat him. And given that we now know more about Frieza's motivations and that he plans to rule the universe, defeat Goku, Beerus, potentially the Omni King, he's going to need as many strong allies as he potentially can get. So what this suggests is that Broly is a pawn in a game. We know that Frieza isn't stronger than Beerus yet, and you could argue that the seeds of potential conflict between Broly and Beerus were set in the superhero arc when Beerus was shown to be fancying Chilai. However, I offer this, that Frieza knows that Broly can be controlled by a device, and he would also know that that device was crafted under limited resources. Frieza has nigh infinite resources and has just acquired two of the Heaters who also possess a lot of resources and knowledge themselves. So I offer that Frieza may wait for Goku and Vegeta to unleash Broly's full potential, but when the opportunity is right, that he may put another device on Broly, more akin to the one we saw in the original Dragon Ball Z Legendary Super Saiyan Broly movie, to keep Broly under control. Now, there is also the potential for Goku and Vegeta to contact Bulma, and maybe they could do something about that, because it will likely go in the direction of some technological advancements, something that could tap into Broly's cells that basically stop him from going into this Legendary Super Saiyan state that was talked about in the Tournament of Power by Cabba, and was even compared to Broly in source material from Jump. And just a quick caveat, I know a lot of people will say, well, Broly had Super Saiyan full power in the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, whereas Kale was stated to be the Legendary Super Saiyan in the manga, which is fair, but what I do offer is that the V-Jump magazine did state that Kale's transformation is just like Broly's, and then furthermore states this: Buzu means acting out of control or rampaging. The problem with the Legendary Saiyan, as seen with Broly and Kale, is that they completely lose control of themselves. You could argue it was referring to the original Dragon Ball Z Broly movie, but these articles were intended as guides for the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. The transformations of Kale and Broly work the same, and Cabba states about that transformation: once they awaken, it's all over. Their power keeps growing and they rampage until they basically self-destruct. Well, as we know, once Broly attained Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan full power, that is literally what happened. He kept growing in power, eventually getting to a blue level fusion. Obviously, blue level fusion Gogeta managed to make him snap out of it, so he didn't keep growing in power until the point he exploded. And just to add to the Broly efficiency argument from the latest chapter, and something else that contradicts it, in the Tournament of Power, Jiren states that Kale did not wield her power properly because the transformation was at the consequence of their own body. Well, Broly's transformation is the same, and therefore the consistency lies with he wouldn't be able to wield or control his power properly. So whether it's to make him docile so he's controllable, as Frieza might want to make Broly, or whether it's to get Broly to not end up destroying the planet if he loses control whilst training. And guys, remember that even Goku, Gohan and Vegeta struggle to reattain Super Saiyan after first achieving it, and by by that, what I mean is they weren't able to tap into Super Saiyan reliably. Even Goku admits that when talking to Trunks when future Trunks first arrives. Goku actually had a semblance of control over his Super Saiyan when he turned Super Saiyan despite being in a rage at Krillin's death, whereas Broly had lost control, he'd lost his mind. So what we've got to consider is that moving forward, Broly obviously is going to serve a purpose to the narrative. We all know that Goku will end up the strongest in the end, but until that point, it's likely Broly's MO will continue to be the same. He'll continue to be a raging monster that's unstoppable. Obviously, he seems to be on the side of the protagonists at the moment, but I feel like the tragedy surrounding Broly's character and that of the Legendary Super Saiyan is that once he bursts into a rage, he no longer has control, and therefore he will need a device that can bring his Legendary Super Saiyan power into control somehow. Of course, I don't think the device will work forever, even if it is a newly technological device created by the Frieza Force or the Capsule Corporation, or maybe wished into existence by the Dragon Balls, who knows. But given that Broly is the Legendary Super Saiyan, I do believe that his power will eventually transcend that device, and we will probably get a Super Saiyan Broly that's far more like the Z Broly movie, where he was basically a demonic Chad. And rather than getting a completely new transformation, often people speculate will Broly get God Ki and Ultra transformation. I offer that he will actually learn to control his Legendary Super Saiyan form and be more like that Broly from the DBZ Legendary Super Saiyan Broly movie, and that will be the evolution of his power. Of course, the Legendary Super Saiyan transformation is a demonic transformation. It's potentially the transformation or the Saiyan that the original Super Saiyan God Yamoshi thought, but I believe his narrative arc is that of a tragedy, and it may be that Chi Lai dies to allow him to erupt into this out of control form, or it could be that he naturally evolves into his more demonic Dragon Ball Z Legendary Super Saiyan form, and it's just a natural progression of his story. So if Broly learns to control his power, and as Jiren said, learns to wield that type of power properly, Broly is going to be nigh unstoppable. I do believe Broly will get some sort of new transformation because this is Dragon Ball Super after all. I'm quite going down the Bio Broly route given its unpopularity, so I believe they'll probably just use the Broly story and drag it out for longer, and eventually maybe Goku and that will get through to him by finding a way to appeal to his gentle nature, which is of course in juxtaposition to the demonic Super Saiyan legendary form that he is basically born with, and therein lies the tragedy. It's like the Jekyll and Hyde tragedy, but at the risk of either blowing up or to be used as a pawn in Frieza's plans, his power is going to have to be brought into control in some way. So guys, obviously a new arc's coming. I know I do a lot of power scaling and theory videos. This was kind of a bit of both. I hope you enjoyed it. It's all about prognosticating future events in the new arc. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section concerning Broly and his future. What do you think is going to happen in his upcoming narrative? I hope you're all having a great start to the year, and if you are, smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, because there's more where this is coming from. Until next time, Ad Astra.